And it goes a little something like.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 22 of the Ballrooms and Bachelors Podcast, where we talk about our experiences as ballroom dancing students, dancing with the stars, and all things Bachelor. I'm Matthew.
And I'm Camille.
So as you guys have noticed, it's been a little while since we've been on here kind of doing weekly episodes. It's been nice to get a break, as you probably know, just because we've been recapping so many shows and everything since middle of July. So it was nice to get a little break, but we're happy to be back. So on today's episode, we're going to be talking about what we've been up to over the last month, because we've been doing quite a bit of things, and we're going to share what we've been doing last month. And today is actually the first time we're actually interviewing somebody specifically for the podcast today. And we have a very, very special guest on the show today. Or for this episode, and it's our instructor Elena, who we've talked about a lot, and she's a longtime fan of the podcast, and so I know she's been excited to be on. So we did the interview with her later or earlier from today than when we're recording this, so it was really fun to do, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. Do you want to kick it off with what we've been doing this month, Camille?
Yes, and yeah, I just wanted to agree. The interview with Elena was great, and we just wanted to give a little bit of background then before we launch into that. So. So right after the competition, we went into the finales of all the shows, and we went right into Thanksgiving, and then we had the Tuesday after real Thanksgiving, we had the Dance With Me Glen Rock Thanksgiving, and it was a great event as always, and I think we had talked about it a bit in the previous episodes. I forgot now, honestly, but it's like the one party that we have all year that we don't actually dance really that much. I don't think we danced at all, so we kind of just, it's like a time segment block that they basically set aside there. Everybody brings food. It's not just Thanksgiving food, people were bringing stuff from like their culture, things like that, and it's really nice. I've gone to quite a few of them. I know especially it was a great thing to have after the pandemic, just because it's a whole new group of people that have joined the studio, and it was a very good event. And I know you were there as well, so it was a good time, and it's always great to like actually sit down and talk to people, and then people that come to the studio and you don't always get to overlap with them. So we had that.
It was great.
So did you have anything else with that?
Yeah, pretty much what all you were saying. I think that's probably a good thing that we don't dance at that party, just based on how much we eat. Like, it's like after how much we exactly after we eat all that food, it's like none of us want to dance. So I think that's probably a good thing that we don't dance at the party. But like you said, I like that it's a time where, because a lot of times there's some times where people will come to the studio like once a week, and like obviously we're there a lot more of the time, just because we're there for most classes, and then for like private lessons once or twice a week. So there's some people that only come once a week, like during the day, and we're not there for that because we're usually there in the evening. And so it's nice to have like some of those people that we never really see kind of like congregate with them and get to talk to them and get to socialize with them, and then obviously socialize with each other and our friends and stuff like that. And since I've only been at the studio for like a little bit over a year now, this was my second one, and last year was so much fun. I think this one was a little bit I felt a little bit more comfortable, because obviously I started in September of last year, in September, so I had only been at the studio for like a month and a half at that point last year, so I was still kind of new and didn't know many people. So this time where I have like this friend group now, and we're all like socializing with each other and stuff like that, that made it like so much fun. And like you said, I think that's a party that I'm always looking forward to every year. It's just so much fun, and I think it's a good opportunity just for us to connect.
And then I didn't do as many of the group classes from end of November into December, but you were there for more of them, so I'll let you take that to describe.
Okay.
What's going on with all that? I did some, but not many.
I know. There's like November into December, it's always crazy for everybody, so I know that's totally true. But I think we talked about this last time we recorded, but we a lot of the group classes stayed the same from last month to this month, just because like our instructors were thinking it would make more sense, just because with the Thanksgiving party, and then with Thanksgiving as the holiday in general, and then our competition, which took up like almost a week's worth of time, like they thought it would make sense. And then we were also doing our formation dance as well, and we had 2 mandatory rehearsals when there usually would be a group class during those times. And so because of all that, with Thanksgiving, the formation dance, and the competition, there was just so many different things going on in November that like we only had like half of the group classes in their regular slots than they were supposed to be in. So our instructors were just like, oh, it makes sense. Let's just like have the same group classes in December for the whole month, so everybody can like kind of experience them the whole month rather than just half the month. And so all the group classes stayed the same for this month, which I'm glad about, just because they just I really enjoyed the classes. I thought that Central Bachata class was really fun, just because I think that was really different than what we've done with, like, in Bachata regularly. So that was really fun. I really enjoyed that class. I think Elena and David came up. Well, that was always Elena teaching that, because I'm always so used to David teaching Bachata. So
yeah,
I was like, no, Elena only taught that class. That's true. But no, exactly. But I thought Elena did an amazing job with that class, and there were so many different creative things that we did in terms of different, like, choreography and technique and stuff like that. So that made it really fun. It kind of like switched it up from our regular Bachata class that we've usually had. So that made it fun. And then we did a salsa class like David usually teaches every month. So we did that, and that class was a lot of fun. And then Tuesdays was also West Coast Swing like we did last month. And I like West Coast Swing a lot. It's definitely really different than what we usually do. And I think that's why, like, the first 2 times we did it in November, it still took me a little while to kind of get, like, up to speed with it, because I think everybody was talking about it in the group class, like, that was in the group class with us, is that that is, like, so different than what any of us do in our private lessons, and I'm like, are kind of used to doing. It's such a different style. So I feel like that's definitely it was really fun. It was a new challenge that we got to do, and I thought it was really fun. And it was we had some cool choreography, and David, like, picked a song that he really liked. It was like this, like, slow jam summer song that like it was like everybody was getting into during it. So it, like, made it was like really jazzy and stuff. So it made it, like, the class extra fun because of that. And then I'm very happy that, I know we talked about the hip hop class and everything like that, and that was Thursdays. And I'm very happy that that got to stick around, just because I really enjoy that style a lot. And it's so different than what we usually do at the studio, because, like, obviously, and I've told a lot of people this if they're curious about the studio, is that like 95% of the group classes and any of the dancing there is ballroom, just because that's what the studio pretty much is. But when we are able to bring in, like, the hip hop or the contemporary classes, or um I'm trying to think of another style, or even if it's like the workout class, something like that, like, bring in something unique, something different. I think that's fun for us to do, because it changes up the pace a little bit. And so I was very happy we got to do the hip hop class. We kind of stuck with the same routine over the whole month, because Elena came up with, you were in the first hip hop class in November with the Dua Lipa song.
that's the only one I was able to do. I had a commitment like every Thursday after that.
That's right. Yeah. And so I remember that class was fun. And I remember at the beginning of November, Elena was like, "Oh, I'm teaching a hip hop class tonight. What song do you want us to do?" And she put, like, Dua Lipa, and then Buttons by Pussycat Dolls. And so then she did Dua Lipa first, and then and she did that song. And then after that, it's like the second week in November, and then the rest of December, we did the Buttons choreography, which is really fun, because it made it, I think, even more special and just more fun, just because we, like, added on to it every week, and we got more comfortable with it every week. I'm definitely kind of, like, a little bit selfishly sad that it's going away in next month, but I know it's for a good reason, just because, like, I know we like to switch up classes, because I know the hip hop class was one of, like, the fewer attended classes, and there was, like, maybe maximum, like, 4 people in them a week, and not even that. Like, there was sometimes it was just me and Elena in the class, or sometimes it was just one other person. So I definitely think that with switching that up, it makes it a little bit more giving a chance for more people to go and stuff like that. But I was telling Elena, I was like, I really hope we bring it back at some point. And I think she said she definitely will, like, maybe in the spring. I remember this year she said she might want to try to do what we did this year, is because with the workout class coming back in like next month, she was saying she might want to kind of mirror what we did this year, like workout class, like maybe January through March, and then, like, April hip hop starts again, like this year. So maybe we'll do that. But yeah, that class was fun. And then we talked about that we did the frame and body positioning class with David also on Thursdays, and that class was really fun. It definitely, and as you guys will get to hear in the conversation, and I've mentioned this before too, is that Elena and I are going to be starting standard next month, which I'm very excited about. And but that class with David definitely really, like, helped me with just knowing kind of what the frame should be and what the body positioning should be and stuff like that, because obviously, since I haven't been doing them in my private lessons consistently, and I will be soon, it was nice to kind of have that, like, kind of like prior knowledge from the group class, and kind of knowing what the frame and standards should look like and everything like that. So I thought that was a really, really beneficial class. It was a little bit of a different structure, just because it wasn't much of a dancing class per se. It was more of like a Like we just stood around in a circle, and like David would ask us
Yeah.
like questions we had about frame and body positioning and posture and smooth and standard and stuff like that. And then and we
hmm
and then if there was something he wanted to like demonstrate, like say, oh, here's how like we don't lose our frame or lose our posture in this move in say foxtrot or something like that, then he'd demonstrate and he'd have us do it or something like that. But it was never
Yeah.
like a full-on dancing class like most of our dancing classes are. So it was nice to have it like I'll have a little bit of a switch up, pretty much just have it a little bit more of like a question and answer Q&A class, and we got to kind of learn
Yeah.
that. So that was fun. And then Friday was fancy footwork, and that actually is staying next month. So I'm happy about that. One class is staying from next month. I know salsa and bachata are too, but I'm glad
Yeah.
that like one of the like the kind of like specialty or one of the different classes besides salsa and bachata, because
Yeah.
it was pretty consistent, is staying, because fancy footwork was very fun. And Yuri and actually we've had all three of our instructors teach that class
Yeah.
this month, which has been fun because David taught it once. Elena taught it like 3 weeks in a row, the last 3 weeks, and then it's been typically Yuri's class, but he taught
Yeah.
it, and then since he was competing, he like, and then that's when David and Elena kind of took over and started teaching it for him. But it's been really fun. I think we've been specifically working on or doing like we did three, I think, yeah, we did three styles in particular. With Yuri, we did cha-cha and samba. And then with David, we did fancy footwork for bachata. And then Elena took kind of what Yuri was doing. And then we did samba, I think, the first week she taught it. And the last 2 weeks she taught it. So last week and the week before, we did a cha-cha kind of small routine with that.
Yes.
And it definitely is really fun because especially like watching people do fancy footwork. I mean, that's what I was talking about when this class came about last month. It was pretty much the premise was, hey, if we do like a standard or just kind of like a beginner, let's say cha-cha step, here's how it would look. But here's how it would look if it was a little bit more fancy. And kind of the difference between that. And so I thought that was cool to put a little bit more detail into the technique and stuff. So yeah, classes were fun and stuff like that. And I'm really happy that they kept them the same because I really liked those classes a lot. And as I had mentioned, they almost are completely changing the whole schedule next month. So that'll be fun to kind of get some new classes and stuff like that. So that should be
I know
fun.
I didn't put that in our notes, but I think that was, so we definitely know there's a workout class on Mondays, then salsa.
Yes.
Tuesday is the Texas two-step, or well, country line dancing. I think. Yeah, and then Wednesday nothing. Thursday, what was the first Thursday class? Because it's one and Argentine tango.
Yeah, one and Argentine tango.
I don't remember what it was.
I don't.
And then the fancy footwork class.
Oh, I think it is bachata. I think it's bachata.
I don't know. We'll have to see.
I think it's bachata and Argentine tango, and then the fancy footwork. Yeah.
I just checked out my email and I was like, they didn't send it yet. But anyway, so yeah, we're looking forward to the classes in the new year. No, I mean, I went to the Central Bachata class last Monday when I went for my lessons, just because I just like wasn't, I wasn't doing as many lessons. And then now in January, I'll plan to be there for more of the group classes and things like that. And then just, I think like Mondays, Thursdays are probably the days that I will go mostly, just because those are the classes. And then when I have my lessons. And yeah, the main reason, and this will kind of tie into some of the things, the other things I know we wanted to mention. So I actually, the night before we're recording this, I did a skating show for the first time in 3 years. So I like, once the competition was over, I kind of had to really shift focus to skating because I hadn't been skating as much. And I had to put together the program and work on my jumps and work on my technique and build my stamina and all that. So I did that last night. It was like a 3-minute long program.
Awesome. Yeah.
So thank you. Yes. And then I know you came, and then a few of the other folks in the studio came. Elena, Rebecca, and Maura had come watch. So thank you guys. It was nice, and it was, yeah. So I've been like focusing a little bit more on the skating over the past month, but I was going for some lessons, and Yuri and I went over my new samba, my new rumba, and then David and I started looking over some things for standard, just of ways that we could just change up the routines and things that we had to take out for the smaller floor at the competition, putting them back into the routines, just because like we tried to accommodate it for the smaller floor. And then, whenever I compete again, the next time it will be a bigger floor again. So that was, yeah. So that's it. I mean, I guess going into 2023, and we also went skating a group
Yes.
of us, Matthew wanted to go skating, and we went to Van Swan Park Winter Wonderland in Paramus there. In my 25 years of skating, that is the first time I think I've ever skated on an outdoor rink.
Oh wow.
Ever. Yeah. So, but it was really fun. And some of my friends have coached there over the past year or two because they've been setting up the lessons through like people that I know through the skating rink. So but I never went to go. So that was the first time I was there. So we had fun. We had a the dancers came to skate and the skaters have come to dance. So we've had a bit of a swap in December.
Yes, it was so much fun.
It was good. So and you did very well. And everybody did really well. But Matthew was really going very fast on the ice, so I have to say. Oh my gosh. So yeah, I think that's really it. Aside from for the end of this year, that was it. Now we're just looking forward to 2023.
A lot of like goals for 2023 in terms of like creative things and performance things and stuff. So I know that's something I think I know we'll talk about kind of like as the year gets like kind of like further into the year and stuff like that. But yeah, I definitely have tons of things planned. I know that, like I had mentioned before and many times, that since I'm adding standard, that's going to be something that's a goal for me, is to do 10 dance, which is Latin and standard together. I think I was telling Elena that like my goal is like the floor for that is AODC or is mini match, which is like the cheaper, again, virtual competition. But my kind of like preference is to do AADC if that's like, again, if finances and stuff like that work together and stuff like that. So my hope is that we can do that. And so it's gonna be one of those two. It's either gonna be June or July is when I compete again. And to do that, and that will be really fun. I'm hoping to do another showcase in the summer as well, so that'll be really fun. And I know you were talking about with you changing your rumba and samba and stuff like that. Elena and I have been changing some of our routines. We completely changed our rumba, I think, on Monday. And I really like how it is. And I think this is really cool because the reason I like it, I loved our old samba routine or rumba routine. It was really fun, but a lot of our Latin dances, like, and it might be just be a good thing just because it was my first time really like competing that many times or doing that many rounds in a competition for the first time. So it was nice to kind of have the same routines that we've been working on for a while that were kind of doing the same thing. But there were a lot of times where the steps were kind of repetitive, whereas like we would do like 4 or 5 things in a row and then move on to the next step. Now we're kind of like every other step is a new step in the new rumba. And so I'm really happy that we're going to have like a little bit more to do. And I feel like with that now, since we're not repeating as much, we'll probably hopefully get through the whole routine like at a competition now. Because like we'll get through it faster. So my hope is that we'll be able to do that. And then I think we're going to change up a little bit of our jive. Again, just to make it a little bit less repetitive and stuff like that. And add some new things in. And I think Elena said that we're going to keep our cha-cha and samba about like 98% the same because we really like the way it is now. So yeah, that's pretty much what it is for performance and competing, kind of going into the new year.
Okay. Yeah, no, that sounds really good. It sounds like a good plan. I know I'm so you've got more of a mapped out than me. Sorry, I think that's what I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like, I don't know. I know they were talking about potentially us having like a more local showcase in the next month or two, but I think they're trying to figure it out. Elena was saying they're just coordinating with the studios to see if it's feasible. So I know whether that happens or not, I'm planning to do a showcase as the next thing that I do at an event. I definitely want to do a contemporary. I have the song idea. I need to talk to all of the instructors that I want to be part of it because they don't all know that right now. But whether the showcase event it happens in the next month or so or not, it's the next thing that I want to do an event. And then I kind of am in the same boat. I think I want to do the 10 dance most likely at the AODC because I did do the AODC for Latin, and then my Latin dancers are switching more towards open gold, and then David and I are just strengthening the standard dances and making them a little stronger. So I think, that might not be till the summer, but I definitely want to make sure that I put in more time to make those changes and not just make the changes, but really solidify the changes, because I think that was part of the reason why I was like trying to slow down the pace that I was doing some of the events. But the showcase is something I really want to get out there and do, and then, and then do the competition and then take them there. Cause I know the the new choreography is a little bit more reliable.
Yeah.
Intense. So I'm like, and I know I can do it. I just want to make sure that when I go out on the dance floor that I'm confident, because
Right.
and it's things that I've talked about before. Like, yes, I'm happy when I place well and I score well in the competitions, but a lot of the reason that I'm doing the dancing, it's more for me and my own
Right.
expression. And we talk a little bit about it in the interview with Elena, but I think for me that it's just, that's my goal, is like to go out there and perform and be able to perform the steps well. So it's like that's more of my incentive really than even just like the placements and stuff. So which I'm fortunate that after so many years of competing with skating, I have that perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm kind of like, it's not
No, I know.
I'm competitive. I am competitive, but like
it's more for me rather than competing against
Yeah.
other people. I agree with you.
Yeah, that's where I'm kind of at too.
But I kind of going off what you were saying about the showcase thing. I know that because, like I said, I'm hoping to do a showcase in the summer. But again, I'm also the next thing I want to do, any performance competition wise, is also a showcase. And the one for whether it's the February one happens or not. If it doesn't, if it does happen, great. If it doesn't, then I think I'm just going to switch it to the March event. Or the March event instead.
Yeah.
And that will be when I do the showcase. And I already have I have a few song ideas. It might be a thing. I think Elena and I talked about saying that if we couldn't decide on one song, we might try to like mix in 2 songs in the routine. But we might try to stick with one. I think I have like 4 or 5 song candidates for the routine at this point. And I already have the style decided. I know I want to do a cha-cha hip hop fusion. I think that would be really fun, especially I've talked about this before, is that our old showcase, or the showcase we just did in November, was very serious and very angry and very just like high emotion in terms of like being very serious. I want to just do a showcase that's kind of like letting loose and having fun and smiling the whole time and stuff like that. So I definitely want to do that. And so that would be fun. And I'm really excited. I think like you said, just kind of planning those things out and taking the time to really get into the technique and working on your stamina and working on just, again, the details and everything like that. I definitely think it makes it worth it for sure. And I'm very excited for the new year. I think we're both and everybody at the studio is gonna like have a lot of fun things happen in the new year for us.
Yes. And then last but not least, the one thing that we are also looking forward to in January, middle of January, we are going to see the Dancing with the Stars live tour, and we got VIP tickets, and we're going with my friend Rebecca. And so it's the 3 of us that are going. So we're very excited, and we're going to get to meet Gabby.
Yes.
Because Gabby is co-hosting the tour. I know we said in one of the previous episodes. And so we're really excited about that. And then we get to meet all of the Dancing with the Stars folks. Also because, it's just been, and you've done the VIP before, but I have not done it. So and like we know Max and Val, but I know Val won't be on the tour because Jenna's due early in the year. But it will be nice to meet some of the other pros too.
Right.
And Gabby. I think I will probably scream when I meet Gabby.
I know, me too.
And she might also just yell right back at us.
I know, she might. That's totally hers.
Oh my gosh. Oh, so we'll see. I mean, we haven't gotten any details yet of like how that's going to go, and hopefully we get some time. Like hopefully we get a decent amount of time to be able to get some Q&A with them. So we have to really sit down and think of like the questions we want, and then we will report back after that. But we have a few weeks.
And we're definitely going to be making a vlog for that as well. So you guys will be able to see kind of our experience with that and everything, because I know you'll want to be kind of taken along with that. So that'll be really fun to do. Yeah,
I think that was the other thing. Yes, and you're working on the vlog from the competition that we did back in November. I know you've had a lot with like finals and then everything going on. So we're anticipating to post that soon.
Yes.
Too, if it's not already up by the time this episode goes up. But I think that's really it. I think you're all caught up to date. So
and so like we talked about, here's our episode with Elena. I hope you guys enjoy it. So as we mentioned at the beginning of the episode, we have a very, very special guest on the episode today, and it's our instructor Elena.
Hi everyone. Welcome to my house, my parents' house.
As you can see, we're at the studio. So we're still at the studio in spirit right now.
I don't know how you got there because I have the key, but yeah.
That's right. Again, we just
David let us in.
Right. But we're going to be talking about some of our dance experiences. Then we have some questions for Elena, and then just going to throw it to an open discussion later. But I think we're going to start with Camille. Do you want to get started on your background with dance?
Yes. So before I came to Dance With Me, when I was little, I started ballet, tap, and jazz around 3 years old. Well, ballet and tap when I was around 3 years old. And at one studio that I went to, and then I was doing ballet and tap for multiple years. I added jazz. When I got older, I added performing company and like a theater class. So I was with that studio, and it wasn't competitive. I think that studio later on, they started to do competitions, but at the time I was there, they didn't do any dance competitions. We just had a recital at the end of the year. The performing company that I did with them was kind of more of like, we would go and perform. I think we performed at the mall one time. We performed at a nursing home. We performed in different places that we did like throughout the year, not just at the end of the year recital. So I had that when I was little. And also, it's, tangentially related. I started skating when I was around 6 years old. So it kind of overlapped that I stopped doing dance with the recitals at like, I was around like 12 years old or so. Before I was going into 8th grade. And then I still did go, I went to another studio that I was just going to do ballet at, just so that way I kept ballet, because it was too much to do the skating and the dance and all the recitals, but I kept doing ballet. We also had another instructor that came to the skating rink to do ballet that she taught at another studio. So honestly, over the years, I've done ballet the most. I never did point. But I always I always loved dance from when I was little. And then I think the main reason for me was that I got into ballroom and to dance with me was when I was finishing up my skating career. I was trying to look into something that I was like, this would be a good hobby for me to do after I'm done skating. And the last year or two I was competing, I skated to a medley of Gloria Estefan songs. And my instructor was like, well, do you know how to salsa or anything? And I was like, well, I am half Cuban, so I feel like it's in my blood. But I started to look at the ballroom studios, and I was like, let me go for some lessons, because this is something I'll want to do probably when I'm done competing for skating. And when I researched, the studios in the area, when I ended up on Dance With Me, one of my friends from college, his brother was actually one of the instructors at the studio. And that's why I was like, oh, I'm definitely going to go to Dance With Me, and I'm definitely going to come to the Glen Rock studio. And then I've had multiple instructors over the years. But yeah, now I've been there 6 years. I always lose count. But I worked on Latin and standard, and I had done some of the social styles. And when I first started there, I was doing a little bit of smooth. So I've gotten a little bit of a variety of everything, but that's pretty much my background up to what I'm doing now.
Awesome.
And I feel like I watched your skating video from yesterday. It was so good, but it's so funny to see you in that element, because like I'm just not used to it. But like skating in a way is like dancey as well. So it makes sense that you like both. Yeah.
And that's why I always wondered, because I never did ice dance particularly. So I mean, some of my friends, they've done it, and I haven't really like learned how to do the dances on the ice. And I'm like, now that I know how to do like waltz and foxtrot and tango and everything in dance shoes, I'm like, what does it look like on the ice? Like, how do they translate it? So I want to go back and watch and really study it, but thank you. So Matthew, your story now.
Okay, so obviously mine's like the shortest out of the three, but it's still kind of an interesting story to it. So I've mentioned this on the podcast, I think in the first few episodes a few times, and I think I've told you both about this, that like I've loved watching dance since I was really little, just actually observing it as like a spectator. And I've always been into like creative arts and everything like that. Like all my hobbies and the majority of my hobbies, even up to this day, are still in the creative arts and everything kind of like that. And I remember that I started watching Dancing with the Stars, I think, in season 4. So that was 2007. Mm-hmm. And so I was like 6 years old at the time. And then the same thing with So You Think You Can Dance, like right when that show started, I started watching it as well. And all those dancing shows really kind of inspired me to want to get into it someday. I never, not that I didn't think I would, but I never thought if it was possible, just because I didn't know where I could start or what the opportunities would be like, especially like as I got older, because I was like, oh, obviously, like a lot of people start when they're young, and it's like, oh, is this too late or whatever? And I've obviously found out that it's not. You can start whenever you want. But it's funny because I was thinking about this today, and it's like when I obviously didn't know what they were called at the time, but I do now since I do these steps. But it was like, I remember when like they were like doing routines on Dancing with the Stars and stuff like that, I'd be trying to like mimic the New Yorkers or the Bozofogos and stuff like that in front of my TV. And I'm like, oh, I'd love to do that one day. And I had no idea what they were called, but it's just so funny that like I do those things now. So it's pretty ironic and funny. But so I did that. And then like I said, I wasn't sure like how I wanted to get into dance, but I knew I wanted to at some point. And I think ballroom just specifically was kind of like it piqued my interest the most, or at least just kind of like it was the first thing I really thought about, just because Dancing with the Stars was like my first real kind of like exposure to dance, which is like mainly ballroom, obviously. So I remember, I think there were a few times because when I was still in Florida, I remember there were a few times that I was like looking around at some local dance studios, but none of them really, I guess, were like, I guess, the fit that I would want it to be. And so I just really didn't think much of it until I moved up here. And then I remember, I think it would have been 2019. Yeah, I think it was 2019 because it was like the winter time, I believe. I remember Val was like posting something about I guess it was like Val, Peta, Jenna, like the three of them or something like that. They were doing some kind of like studio tour with the studio, and they were going around to the different
Yeah, they
studios.
were. I heard
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That was when I was in Seattle when I think Jenna came to the studio and I couldn't be here.
That was right when I got hired.
Yes, it was because it was May of 2019.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Weekend before I
Oh
started.
wow.
I was like,
That's crazy. But so yeah, I saw that and I was like, oh, that's like 10 minutes from my house, like one of the studios. I was looking at that, but again, I kind of just like didn't really, not that I didn't really think much of it, but again, I just kind of saw it. I was like, oh, this is really cool. But again, never really thought I was going to make the commitment of getting into dance at that point. Even though I still had that kind of goal and dream in the back of my mind. And then obviously I knew actually, like I kind of had the goal of wanting to try to do it like in 2020 before the pandemic started, but then obviously pandemic happened and that kind of threw a wrench into everything. And then in 2021, I was like, you know what, I've had this kind of goal since I was really little. I'd like to, let me just do something for me and like really learn this new art form that I have really been interested in for a long time watching. And like you were saying, it was kind of the same thing. And my grandma, who lives in Texas, she was telling me about, I think one of the Texas studios in her area opened, I think when it first opened in like 2015, 16, something like that. And she was telling me about it. She's like, oh, Val and Max and Dance with the Stars have a studio. Cause I remember, so that also, I remember that conversation I had with her. And she's like, oh, it's called Dance With Me. And I remembered that. And I was like, well, isn't that the like same studio that Val and Max were posting about, like that they were coming to in my area? And I looked and I was like, oh yeah, it is. So like, I was like, this is pretty interesting. I think it'd be really cool to go to a studio that they own. And so, like I said, I kind of decided right then and there, like you said, Camille, that I wanted to, like, that was the studio I wanted to go to. So I remember, and I'm not sure if you remember this conversation, Elena, but I know you've had so much happen in the same time, but I remember calling you to like say that I was interested in starting lessons there. And it's still crazy to me because like I hear you doing those calls still with other people. And I'm like, it's crazy to me that like that was me like a little bit over a year ago. How much has happened since then. But I called the studio and Elena answered and she was like, what styles are you interested in and everything like that. And I was like already so excited about it to where she was like, I think this was so hilarious, but I was like, I think she was like, oh, what styles do you know? Because I was like, I already know all these styles I want to do just from watching Dancing with the Stars. And she was like, what styles do you want to do? And I was like, oh, I have 10. And she was like, let's start out with 3. And it was so funny. And so I broke them down and stuff like that. And but she could tell I was really excited over the phone. And so
what were those 3?
I think it was like Quick Step. I'm like, we're not
starting with Quick Step. I know. I think I said Cha-Cha, Rumba, Quick Step, which we didn't even start with Cha-Cha, Rumba either.
Paso.
Right. I think I did say Paso. Yeah, that makes sense. But it's funny because like I'll get into this in a little bit, but we like obviously Latin is what we primarily do now.
Yeah.
And we didn't start with Latin either. And so I had said those styles and stuff like that. And I set up my intro in my intro lesson. I think not even the following week. I think I called it maybe on a Monday, I believe. I think it was either the beginning of the end of a week. I think it was the beginning. It was Monday, I believe. And I think it was for like my intro lesson was on the Thursday. And I've heard so many people and a lot of our friends say the same thing, that like I knew 5 seconds into the lesson that this, like our studio and just dance in general, was going to be something that was going to be really important to me and really special in my life. I just knew it was something that was going to really impact my life in a really good way. And I was just so happy that I had found it. We've done a lot of different styles over the year, or over like the last year or so. but we started with, and I'm assuming this is probably a lot of the same with the a lot of the new students and stuff like that. You kind of just like throw a lot at them, and it's like, oh, what do you like and stuff like that. And so I know we did a lot of a few social dances, and so we did like salsa, bachata, stuff like that. And then I think we were doing a little bit of smooth. I remember we did, I think, Foxtrot Tango, because I remember we were talking about like, oh, tango is like something we need to work on a little bit more, because I was having trouble with it. So because obviously it's not easy. And then I think in December was when we like, or December of 21 is when we decided we were going to fully like stick with Latin, because I remember texting you, I think it was still pretty early on when I was there, and I think I even told you that like over the phone before I even started there, but I think I had told you that I think a few months into me being there that I had a goal of performing and competing, and that was something I wanted to do. And so you were like, okay, let's try to pick one style, and then like let's compete in that. And so we decided on International Latin, which is what we do now, and we have been doing since December. And so we've been doing that, and then like as we explained, that's cha-cha, rumba, samba, and jive. We haven't added paso yet, but we'll add paso in a little bit, because we're gonna plan to do the 5 dances with that soon. And then we're gonna add standard most likely next month, which is exciting. I know Elena's been excited about that, because she had said
finally do your quick step.
Finally do my quick step. I know. Especially because we were talking about this a few days ago. I think I'm going to be her first standard student that she's ever had, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So that'll be cool to kind of get immersed into another style of dance. And that's another thing I've learned as well, just like being at the studio too, is that like when you start learning, I know a lot of times people will do like certain styles and they specialize in certain styles and stuff like that. But what I've noticed is that I really like am really inspired to want to learn other styles when I do specific styles. So like when we've done Latin, I'm like, oh, I want to learn standard. And then when I've seen people do like hip hop or contemporary, that's why I like kind of brought those up for us to do group classes for those, because I was like, oh, that would be fun to do, because I'd love to learn another style and stuff like that. I just feel like I'm very kind of like inspired to want to learn more styles. Just like as a dancer now, it just makes it more fun for me to like want to get immersed in those different styles and kind of have a variety. And so up until this point, Elena and I have competed in 3 competitions, which is insane to me that we've even competed in 3 competitions this year. I would have never thought that like we would compete in 3 competitions this year, but that's pretty much what we've been doing and where my dance journey has taken me so far. And like I had said, we're going to start standard next month, which will be fun. And then we have some performance and competition goals and ideas for next year. And that's pretty much where I am now with my dance journey right now.
And so now, and Elena, now you.
Yes.
You have a much longer story.
Yeah.
I'll try to sum it up. Okay. So I think I started when I was like 5. I think I was in like 1st grade. And essentially what happened was, I don't remember this. I was 5. My mom told me this, is that she had asked me what I want to do. I think she was like, do you want to do soccer? And I've just been a boss my whole life. And I was like, no. She's like, do you want to do softball? I was like, no. Like I kept saying no to everything. So then she was like, okay, what do you want to do? And I said ballet. She was like, okay. I don't even know where I got that, since no one in my family dances. I'm like one of the only girls. One of the only girls in my whole family. So I think I just saw on Barney. Like I literally think or like Barbie Nutcracker. Like I don't know where I saw it. I was like, that's what I want to do. So then my mom, I was just on the cusp. Like when you're younger, it's usually like a full class is half ballet, half tap, but I wasn't interested in tap, and I was at the age where I was able to choose if I wanted to do one or the other. So I just started with ballet. I stuck with ballet up until I was in, I think like 4th grade or maybe 5th grade. It was like halfway through a year. Randomly, I got thrown into a jazz class, and after jazz, I got put into hip hop. And this was like stuff because like Matthew said, like you start to watch and you're like, okay, I like this style, but I want to keep learning. So by watching other people at my studio, especially the older girls, like you idolize them. So I wanted to do all the styles. So I did ballet, then I moved into jazz, and I did lyrical. I forgot about that. I did lyrical, and I was like, I'm still a very tiny person, but like back in the day, I was like a Barbie doll size, like this big. So when I was like with people my age, I was always the one that's like being lifted and like turned
Me
around.
too.
Me too. I have so many like
Yeah.
videos of me just being like propped in the air like this.
Yeah,
So I did start
same.
lyrical, then jazz, then hip hop, which I sucked at for like the longest time. And it was just bad. It was like ballet girl trying to do hip hop. Not that it's bad, but it was bad. And then I really wanted to compete, so I started competing in those styles, specifically jazz in 6th grade. And then I got put into a solo, which then I stopped the next year because I was like, I just wasn't ready again. Like I was still like learning so much that I was like, okay, let me pause for a minute. And then I spent like a year taking ballet, lyrical, jazz, hip hop, and I think I started contemporary, and I was just training. Like I was literally in the studio all day. And I remember in like not ninth grade, it was like 7th grade. One of the years I had really bad grades because it was just like I was just at the studio all the time till like 9:30 at night every night. I mean, I loved it, but my schooling did not. And like bad grades was like for me like 70s. I'm not a bad student. I want to say that. I am like very OCD about doing good things very well. So it just wasn't, dance was more of my passion. So then yeah, I kept competing. I started to obviously grow. Like I was like, and then all of a sudden within a year, because I was taking so many classes and private lessons, I like skyrocketed. Like my transformation from one year to the next was like huge. So my teacher saw that and she was like, okay, like let's put you into some more stuff. So then I got pushed up to higher levels. And that's, I think, really where my interest started to like peak at, and like my training started to peak at, was because I saw how other people danced. I watched So You Think You Can Dance like crazy. And like, I just wanted to be like them. So yeah, I just kept training. Like, even if I wasn't in a class, I went to the studio to dance. I would dance like literally right here. Let me lower this. In this here, you'll get to see this little space was my training space. You could see where the rug is pushed up here. That's 'cause it's turning on the rug.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I would just like train like crazy. And then once my senior year of high school hit, I was like, yeah, I don't know what I want to do, man. I mean, I did like a little bit of Latin and I had videos. And Matthew actually reminded me when he said that I do have a video on my Instagram of me mimicking before I actually took my first Latin class, or maybe it was around the same time I took my first Latin class, me with like a fringe skirt and like a lace top, mimicking like Cuban breaks and like all of this stuff. I have to stop it because it's bad. It's not good. It wasn't, yeah, no, it just wasn't good. It was bad. I have to be honest. So yeah, I did like a lot of mimicking, a lot of watching videos in the studio. And yeah, then I graduated high school. I had no clue what I wanted to do. And then, yeah, I figured it out after that. But I definitely trained a lot growing up. No tap though, just ballet, jazz, contemporary, lyrical, hip hop, a little bit of point. I loved point, but my studio wasn't big on it. So it was just like whatever to me. But yeah, I think that's it. It's like a lot, but I think that was basically it up until high school. And then after that's a whole nother story.
Well, then college, because I know, then how did you end up getting through college and then going to Dance With Me?
Yeah.
Okay. So
we have more follow-up questions too, but at least fill that part in and then
okay. So then I graduated high school. I had no clue what I wanted to do, and I was always undecided. Like I can never make a decision for myself, no matter what it is, like how small it is. So when it came to this, it's like, yeah, I have no clue. And for me, dance like wasn't something that I would go to college for. In my mind, I was like, no, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And my freshman year of college, I went to a community college and I studied. I was just undecided. I wanted to do something physical. I didn't know if it was like sports medicine or physical therapy or nutritionist. Like I knew something with health, but I don't like blood, broken bones, or throw up. So that really narrowed down all my options a lot. So I was like, okay, well, what the heck am I doing? And I saw a lot of girls that I knew from the area auditioning. They were a year below me, but they were auditioning to go to college for dance. And I was like, why didn't I try that? Like, I guess it just never crossed my mind. I was like, let me just try and see what happens, since I'm so undecided that like I might as well do this. And I only applied to 2 schools. was like very last minute. And I got into only one of the dance programs, but the school was beautiful. It was Montclair. Montclair State University, shout out.
And you're an out-of-state student also. We should,
and it was out, 2.5 hours out of state. So I went to the campus to audition, and that was like one of the only times I got to see the campus, and I wasn't even allowed into the buildings besides the dance building. And so I like took a leap of faith, and I was like, I'm just gonna go. My parents were always supportive. They didn't even question me, at least not that I remember. They were like, if you want to go, like go, like just do it. So I just was like, I hope this works since I'm moving away. And I loved it. This campus is beautiful. I love the dance studios. The program was great. I made my best friends there. But I studied modern, like classical modern. So that was like another thing I added to my repertoire, is like classical modern performance opportunities. I was in New York, so then I was training in the city a lot more, in hip hop and jazz funk. I spent 3 years there, and then upon graduating, again, I was like, I want to stay in the area to be close to New York, like the city. And then I, on a whim, just applied to Dance With Me. I was just on Indeed or like some online website, and I was like, click, 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 apply. Dance With Me called me back. I got on the phone with like Leanne, which is our regional manager. She FaceTimes me. I remember sitting in my dorm room, and I was on my bed. I'm like, so unprofessional. And, you know, I interviewed with her and then a few other people, and I got hired as an admin. And then they saw me dance, and they were like, wait, you're a dancer. You're an actual, like, you're a good dancer. And I was like,
did you not say that in the application?
Well, I did. I told them that I had just graduated, but there's like, I think, you know, there's different, I could say I'm a dancer, but it might not be professional level dancer, you know, like I think they assumed that I was a little bit more rec than I actually am. So then when they saw me perform for the first time, they were like, wait, you know how to dance. Do you also want to teach? I was like, yes, I would love to teach. So then I got trained in that styles that I didn't know and filled the gaps, started teaching. Barely like 4 months, COVID hit. We got put virtually. I was teaching virtually, and then I started doing online work. So I was still doing like admin work, teaching, all virtual. Then I started doing recruiting for new teachers. So I was a recruiter for a short amount of time. And then this past, I think it's been like 7 months since I've been.
I know, it's crazy.
It's crazy. But now I'm a manager. So I manage. Basically still I'm an admin because I do a lot of admin work and teach. So that's where I'm at. That's how I fell into Dance With Me. It was actually like on a whim. I was just like, let me just apply, and worked out.
That's awesome.
Well.
It's
so
so
I know,
4 years
I know
later.
Matthew had a question. I had a few other ones that I was going to go through, but I think you answered half of them.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go over them now, and then Matthew, go back to your question because we like wrote them all out. No, it's fine. It's fine. That's why we had so many questions. If she doesn't answer it, then we'll
totally.
So yeah, I think and you probably, because I know we sent you the questions ahead of time, you probably like had it in the back of your mind. So yeah, the things that I was going to ask you were just like, what made you ultimately decide to major in dance, and what else were you thinking of studying? And you answered that too. And I think and like, how did people react when you decided this? Because it looked like at least your parents were very supportive.
Yeah, of course there's concerns, because like dance in itself is not, you have to work. You have to put in work for your professional performance career. You have to put in work to retain and keep students. It's a lot of work, because it's technical work within dance, and then it's how to work with people as well, because I could be a great dancer and not know how to teach, and then never retain students, you know? So it's definitely always a concern in the back of any of our dancers' minds, is if anything were to happen, especially to our bodies, like we wouldn't have money, we'd have a job. So of course there was some concerns with it. My parents they were always pretty supportive. My friends growing up, I don't really think, this doesn't sound wrong, but I don't think they cared. They were like, whatever. Like they just knew me as a dancer. Like I was the only friend that danced. I was only, like, out of the high school that I went to, like I was the only person that like took it to the next level. They were like, okay, would like make sense. They were like, whatever, you know, like it didn't even phase me, because like I spent literally 99% of my time in the dance studio. So when I was like, I'm going to move for dance, they were like, okay, yeah, duh. Like didn't even phase anyone. So that's
yeah.
And then
it's always a factor.
Well, and then that was the other thing when you graduated too. Like, were there any other jobs you were looking for, or it was kind of just you were just seeing, and then you saw Dance with Me, and that was it?
I just was like applying to a bunch of dance studios. I was going to actually teach at a few studios, like 3 or 4. And I did have 2 jobs at once with Dance with Me. So I was like co-teaching just kids, like it was like kids hip hop. So it wasn't anything like that collided.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was going to teach at like 2 or 3 studios, and that was it. And I was just going to like make money from a few different locations. But then Dance with Me hired me, and then I moved to full time. So I didn't have to work in multiple locations.
Yeah.
So, all right. Yes. So those are, you answered mine already. So Matthew, I know you had another question too.
Yes, I did.
When we were going through.
So, yeah, you were talking about how like sometimes, and I'm the same way, so I totally agree with this, is that like, especially if you have like are presented with so many like opportunities or like decisions to make, I can never make a decision. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I like want to make the best one, but I don't know what to do. So when you were saying that like you always dance and that was always a big part of your life, was it like, was that ever like a thought in your mind that that's what you wanted it to be for your career, or was it still kind of like that didn't cross your mind until college?
It literally didn't cross my mind till college. I don't think I had any thoughts. Like I literally was like, I don't know. I knew something physical. Like I like working with people that are like, I love working with all ages. Like kids have advantages. Like they're fun. They say like crazy things. You never know what's going to come out of their mouth. And they learn so fast. Like it's crazy. So it's really cool to work with them. Adults are very different. But like you can actually hold a conversation and get to know them. The middle, like let's say like our age, if I was teaching us, Matthew, it's a different kind of challenge. So I always enjoyed working with all different kinds of people, but like I could never narrow it down. Like it's hard to even explain. Like I was just like so open-ended that it was like I like this, but I like that, but dance. You know, it was like it was like the only thing that I was like, I know I like that. Everything else was like, I think I could, but it was just like so open-ended.
Yeah. That makes sense. And so, and another question that we both had, but I was just interested to know, especially since you were talking about how like when you were younger and you had pretty much the same styles of dance that like they were pretty consistent from when you were younger until college, and then like you said, when you hit college and you started applying the jobs and everything like that, that's when you kind of expanded more into like different styles and stuff like that. Especially with working at Dance with Me now. And since you were saying that you didn't have much ballroom/Latin training or experience before that, how long did it take for you to feel like confident and comfortable teaching those styles like in the ballroom world? And then like and how did you train to do that?
Oh, that's actually good. How long did it take me to feel confident? COVID definitely helped so much, because like then I could like actually take my time. Like I had so much time. I loved it because I had like time to do so many things and like train and like really focus. The first few months, it's not that I didn't know what I was doing, but there's so much involved with ballroom dancing. Like I'm not even gonna get into it. There's just a lot of layers. It's like a lot to unpack. So when I'm teaching it, I've been teaching since I was like 14. So I understand how to teach, but then you have to cater towards each individual person, because now I'm teaching in a private lesson. So it's customized like crazy. So in the beginning, I was just very nervous of delivering the wrong information or not being able to explain it properly. So it took me a few months to get comfortable on how to just properly tell people, like how to explain it and like get people to like understand, and then like show me that they understand, because they can mentally understand, but physically understanding is a whole different story. So I had to be able to understand it here, and then I needed to be able to understand it here to then teach it to somebody. So it was always like a little nerve-wracking in the beginning. Like, I hope that I'm explaining it well. But then with COVID, you know, I had so much more time to like let it settle and then reevaluate the way I teach people. And Dance With Me trained me a lot in like how to speak with people, and I love it because now I can understand how to teach so many different dancers and just people. Actually, like people learn different ways, so now I can cater towards like, you know, what I feel is best for them. So it's not even necessarily the material, it was more of like verbalizing. That was, so I would say like 4 months, something like that, until I was like, okay, no more worries.
Like, well, like you said, I mean, COVID, like being home, I guess helped because then you're like, okay, well, you had time like during the day to work on things.
I'm like thinking in my head, I'm like, how do I want to explain this? Like, I know this person's gonna have questions, you know.
Exactly.
So yeah, it was like 4 months.
And teaching kids, I know, because like with teaching skating, like, and then I'll teach the adults skating, and then like sometimes I'm kind of like, well, I'll tell the adults, I'm like, well, this is how I explain it to the kids, because then I'm like trying to just like, I don't always have a great analogy for the adults. I'll tell them, but I don't know, skating, it's like, it's a little different.
And visual analogies are the best thing.
Yeah.
Like kids love them because they find them silly, but adults can actually understand what you're saying. If I'm like, make a rainbow with your arm, they're gonna go, you know, like they're gonna like do some type of this action, and I'll be like, got it. Like now we're on the same page. So yeah, like being able to like use things that they can understand and then put it into their dancing is like so helpful.
Yeah, and I could totally see what you're talking about with like different dance styles and stuff like that, and you having that experience and like, but it's still being a challenge to learn ballroom, or like, and be confident and comfortable to actually teach it. And it took a little bit of time because you were saying there's so many layers and so many details and technique in it. Because even just me being at the studio, and I'm assuming it's probably the same for you, Camille, it's that like when like, and this is the same thing where people complain about people on Dancing with the Stars or dance experience. It's like, oh, that's not fair and everything like that. But then we've talked about this when we've been recapping it, is that like with when we've been doing ballroom and then say we've done like a hip hop or a contemporary class, the mindsets are so different to like be in all those styles, to where it's like they're not like, yes, they're all dance styles, and so you can kind of have the like dance mindset with all of them, kind of that's kind of, I guess, the same, but the technique and the details are so all over the place that like it's not fair to be like, oh, they're all the same, because all of them are so different. So I totally like see how like taking that time to understand it can definitely help.
Yeah.
Okay, so I remember that you were talking about this, like when you were giving your background in dance and stuff like that. I know we've had conversations about this personally, that you were saying, Elena, that you have like choreographed and taught and like done stuff like that since a really early age. Do you think that like actually like choreographing things and teaching from that young age helped you at all in any of your dances?
For sure. Yeah, 100%. Because I started assistant teaching when I was young. I probably was around 13 or 14 when I started assistant teaching. I can't remember, honestly. I have the worst memory, but I know it was I could not have been that young. So I know it was between 12 to 14 is where I started assistant teaching, which is essentially where like a teacher has a class, but there's so many little kids, like it's impossible to be in a room of 15, 16 little kids and only have one instructor. So they do assistant teaching where they take an older student of the studio and put it into the class, put them into the class for, you know, sometimes you get paid or you get like a discount off of your tuition, whatever it is. So I started there, and I love kids. I love them, but holy crap, I have like so many memories of the wildest things that they would do. Like, I'm not even gonna say here, like crazy. You're like, in the world. Yeah, and like this is crazy. Like, you know, kids peeing their pants, kids are crying, kids are all of a sudden opening the door and running. Like, you just are just basically babysitting 15 kids.
I did do that one year before I stopped, and I was like, I mean, yeah, I know.
Oh my God, it's wild. And then kids are fighting. So the first memory I have of actually assistant teaching, the class was so bad that I remember the actual teacher, like broke out in hives on her chest because she was like so stressed. Like the class was so bad. So that basically prepped me, I think. Like that, I don't know if it could get like much worse than that class. I have had like really bad classes at a young age. Like I was like 16 teaching 14-year-olds. So by the time I was a senior in high school, I was choreographing for competition, like kids that were competing, like solos and duos and group classes, for kids that were basically dancing against me or like a level below me. So it definitely taught me at a young age, like how to handle those kind of situations. Because it's very rare now that I'm teaching adults. It's very rare. And these adults are now way older than me. Like some of them are way older than me. So I don't have to worry about behavior issues a majority of the time. Every so often, you get someone that's grumpy and you have to be quick to think like, how am I going to handle this? Because, this is awkward. But yeah, starting young really like gave me some good training to like understand any type of situation that could basically come at me at this point. Cause I feel like I've handled a lot. And then same with choreographing. It's like just one of those things where the more you do it, the better your craft will be. So yeah, definitely same with choreographing.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, you're probably glad that like most of our group classes are pretty standard. Like, you don't have to deal with any of us going haywire.
In your pants. Yeah. If you were like, excuse me, Miss Elena, like I just went to the bathroom in my pants, I'd be like, oh my God, I would not know what to do. I would not. I would say, I hope you're kidding.
I was like, I mean, maybe one of us is just gonna joke and say that when we do the
Somebody should say that
in January.
That'd be so funny.
Everybody else is gonna be like, it's a joke. It's a joke. It's an inside joke.
Yeah.
Or watch the podcast and you'll figure out what the joke is. There we go. Exactly. There we go. Advertising tactic.
But yeah, I totally get that. And I have another follow-up question to that. It's just kind of along the same lines of kind of like knowing like or having so much dance experience in your life up to this point. Do you think that there's any pros or cons to knowing so many styles and training in so many styles? And if so, what are those two pros and cons?
Yeah. Pros, where do I start? Okay, we'll start with the good stuff. Pro. If I go to an audition and they were like, do this, or does anybody like, it's a hip hop audition, but we're looking for a ballroom dancer. Boom. I might be the only person in the room to raise my hands. Or maybe there's only like two of us, like, or I go to a ballroom audition and they're looking for someone who can also dance contemporary. Like it's really hard. That's the con of it is to keep up with both styles, like or all styles. You have commercial, which is like commercial work, like music videos, live performances with like pop artists, tours, that kind of stuff. Then you have concert dances, which is like your typical modern ballet companies performing on stages, putting on their own performances, which I love, but like I don't really think that's the route I'm going. And then you have Latin world. It's very different. So when these two can collide and you can find yourself in the middle, there's so many opportunities for you, but then you have to be able to be well versed. So that way it's not like you're a little bit of a contemporary dancer and a little bit of a Latin dancer. Like, it's very hard to keep up with the training, but on the other end, you're way more hireable. So if I wanted to go to a, audition, like I have way, way, way more in my pockets than majority of people. So I'm so happy I have it because I love all styles and I want to continue with all of them. I just have to really manage my time and use my time wisely. So that way, when these opportunities do come, I can say, I'm the best fit because of this. So yeah, it's definitely good, but it's challenging to keep up with it.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I had the next question too. What, and I guess this kind of can go off of what you were saying too. Like, what do you think that you enjoy the most now about Dance With Me, like ballroom dancing, and your position, like where you're at now with everything?
Like as a manager?
As a manager, but even, I mean, like the whole, not just like your actual position, but like your position in life.
Oh, my position
dance. In life with dance. And your position as a manager too. I mean, all of it.
Where do you stand in life?
What do you enjoy the most about your life right now?
Yes.
No.
How are you feeling?
Yeah.
Oh God, now we're in therapy. No, okay, I understand your question. That's funny because I have to manage my time. Like I have to, I was dedicating a lot of hours and I still do to work because I enjoy it. When I am at work. Like, it's not like I'm dreading it, and I have good company. So like, you know, I enjoy the people I work with. I enjoy the students that come in. It's fun to like work in private lessons and group classes, to have opportunities to choreograph and then perform. There's a lot that, and train. I can also train at the studio. So there's so many opportunities for growth in so many different areas within work itself. But I have to make sure that I don't devote myself to work, which is sort of what I did when I graduated. It's like, I stopped taking classes for a very long time. Very long time. And I was so disappointed in myself, because it was like taking a few steps back. And, you know, I did gain a lot from working and training, and I'm not regretting that aspect. I just wish that I kept in mind that the other hours I had off, I should have been training. So now that I'm a little bit more aware of that, it's really just about like, I go to work, I have to leave certain days at a certain time to catch the bus to go into New York to train. And, you know, so now that I'm a little bit more balanced with managing work and managing my own dance schedule, I'm way more happy. Like the last, I would say probably year, close to a year at this point, of me going into the city to train regularly has like made such a difference for me. So yeah, I'm pretty good right now. I wish I could do some more. Not that I can't, it's just I get lazy on the days I have off because it's very limited time.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll hold myself accountable in the new year of doing at least one more class. But yeah, I'm happier. And I mean, there's always room for growth and adaptation. So we'll see where 2023 takes me.
Yeah, for sure. Especially, I know Camille and I have talked about this with like managing our time wisely and making sure that like we're not overdoing it, I guess, and like pushing ourselves to where it's like not fun. So I definitely agree with, again, kind of like balancing again work and then like your like non-work dancing and stuff like that. And so that totally makes sense. And I feel like that makes it like a better experience overall for your life. It's like, hey, I can actually enjoy this rather than like I'm pushing myself so hard to where it's almost like a chore. So
exactly, 100%. And also when I'm learning from other people that I'm learning from my performance, like career, but also like I take that and I give it to my students. So like I'm still training, I'm still learning with you, and all the information I'm relaying to my students is fresh, new information based on what I'm actually seeing in the dance world. Like it's not like 10 years ago they told me I needed these chunky I thought someone just came in my room. These chunky boots. The wind. So you know what I'm relaying to my students is like fresh information that I'm also taking and using for myself. So it keeps everybody up to date, I think, and everybody happy, I hope.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I know I like when you tell us about some of the different things that you've done when you go in the city, because it's like in an ideal world I'm like, oh, I'd love to go and try it, but I just, my time, it just won't, it's not feasible. And I think that's the one thing too, because I know for a period of time, like when I was still training for skating and I wasn't like, I didn't have a full-time job in science or anything, I was coaching and training, and it's hard because it's like I'd be at the rink all day, and it's like I had to make sure I was also tutoring some of the kids that were there like in schoolwork that were homeschooled, so I was like every day it was like I have to figure out my coaching schedule, my tutoring schedule, and my training schedule, and it was like also in the gym and also on the ice and my lessons and all this stuff, and it was just, and it's a lot. But I think there is one advantage of at least like with the studio, like you said, you can, if you get there earlier than the group lessons start, like you can do your own dancing and stuff before then. So it's like there are a lot of benefits to just having it be all like the same thing, and it kind of feeds into itself. Whereas like I think, you know, that's one thing that you've noticed now, and then being that things after the pandemic, it's like a little more opened up, like you have more options to go out and do things, where I know that I think you were probably a little frustrated with that for a while. It's like everything's in the house. I mean, you can still dance in your room.
Actually,
but
it's funny because during COVID is like really when I started, because when I first got hired, I wasn't dancing. Like I basically, not on purpose, but like, you know, I just moved into this new apartment and I was like, oh, everything's fun and new. And then I was like, dance can wait. But then COVID hit and I started training virtually with some people, and I was working out a lot, and I basically got my body fit again because I just like lost my stamina. I was running.
I know what that feels like.
So yeah, I started doing that, and then the next year I started taking more classes. So it's been a lot. It's been a lot. But COVID actually helped me. Not COVID. I should say the shutdown, when I had to be locked inside my house, I was able to like get my life in order. So that was nice. I liked it. But I also like to be alone. So like that was my own personal opinion on that situation.
Yeah, I remember I was like talking like kind of following up on what you were saying, Camille, is that like, and I remember like, because you've come in, Elena, and you've like, when we've like during group classes or like during our lessons and stuff like that, and you've talked to me about like your classes in the city and stuff like that, it's like when you saying that you're still learning along with us, and like you're passing that information on like down to us as well. I think that's really inspiring and really cool, just because and I know we've had this conversation to where like I'm hoping to like, even if it's like once a month or once every few months, to go into the studio you go to and take a beginner class or something like that. I think that'd be a really fun experience, and I think that's like really fun to do, and I would think that would just add like to my love of dance even more. But and I agree with you, Camille, what you were saying about like it's cool that that the studio can act as kind of like a base for all of our dancing, like even if it's like something that we're doing outside of the studio, like if I'm doing a dance class for school, or even if it's for like competing, like you were saying, there's been many times where I've just come into the studio and just practice before my private lesson with Elena or with a group class or something like that, and I just feel like that makes it like really convenient to where it's like a home base for us, to where we're not like stressing about like, well, where am I going to practice or where am I going to train or something like that, to where it makes it a little bit more like less stressful, to where we have that place that we can call like a place that we can actually go practice and stuff like that, not just a place where we learn. So I think that makes the studio really beneficial as well.
I'm glad the manager of the studio to hear that. Have an open space.
Yes.
Practice.
Exactly. And so we have one last question for you before we get into the discussion for the three of us, but this is kind of like wrapping up the whole conversation that we had with you having kind of like so much dance experience and learning so many styles and stuff like that. Do you have any other goals for your own dancing now or in the future, and are there any other styles they haven't done yet that you'd like to try?
That's a good question too. Are there any styles that I don't know that I would like to try? I don't know. There's definitely a lot of styles I don't know, but like when it comes to like hip hop, contemporary jazz, that kind of stuff, jazz funk, I have that covered. Ballroom Latin, basically have that covered. The other in between, I think, is a little bit difficult because I would love to learn anything new. So I'm going to say yes. Whatever those new styles are, I would love to learn them. I don't have anything off the top of my mind right now. I would like to definitely get better at some of the styles I already know. Again, it's just like a lot to train in, like all the commercial work and all the Latin ballroom work. Like I want to continue just to grow within those. But if I had the opportunity of taking other things, I would definitely do it. I've done like African dance and capoeira and all these other stuff. So those are fun, but definitely not probably my focus. Goals though, besides specific styles that I want to learn. Yeah, I want to perform. I like want to be on stage, and I mean, not that I ever want to leave the studio. I'm not saying I'm leaving the studio, but if I had an opportunity that was like, you know, if Doja Cat called me up and was like, hey, you want to perform with me? I'd be like, yeah, I'm leaving work right now. Gotta go perform with Doja Cat, you know? So yeah, I would love to perform with live artists like Doja Cat or who am I thinking of? Justin Timberlake, like people like that. Like I would love that. Music videos. Actually, I had the opportunity to dance, I think I would probably take. So yeah, I hope that comes within the new year. Some more performances. We'll see. I don't want to jinx myself, but I'm gonna talk.
Yeah.
Guys, I jumped through a rainbow on my way home today.
Oh, wow.
Like I was at the end of a rainbow.
Wow.
There's no pot of gold.
Not that I know of. I'll let you know. If Doja Cat calls me, then we know
what,
that there was some gold at the end.
You're manifesting. It's not like resolutions. You're manifesting. So
there we go.
Exactly. It's like she'll just call you right now in the middle of us recording. Maybe that will happen. It's like,
How'd you get my number?
Oh gosh. Okay. So Matthew, I know you had the first discussion topic to introduce.
So and now as we're talking about, I think now what we're wanting to do is just like have like a discussion of the three of us. I think we have like a few discussion points where we just want to talk about specific things about dance for the three of us, so we can kind of like bounce some topics and ideas off of each other. So the first topic that we were talking about is that like especially when we're talking about how we've all done so many different dance styles, like regardless of how long we've been doing dance. And I think we just wanted to talk about like how that's helped us in our lives, and just like what's been the benefit of that. Do you want me to start that, Camille, or do you want to start?
Yeah, you start, and then Elena, and then me.
Okay,
then
cool.
I have the second topic.
Right. Okay. So yeah, that's definitely been so beneficial to me. And I know we've talked about this on the podcast, and I've talked to both of you guys about this, that like I've noticed that when like obviously when we started, or when I started at the studio, I learned so many different styles of dance and stuff like that. But then when I got into Latin and I really focused on that, like we were talking about, and I saw so many people doing other styles as well, I was like, oh, like now I feel really comfortable with Latin. I'd like to learn something else. And that's why I was like always bring up ideas for group classes and stuff like that, because I think it'd be fun to learn these different styles and stuff like that. And so I've noticed that when I've added all these other styles like into my repertoire, or just in terms of like experience base and stuff like that, it definitely has helped be like my other styles, or the styles I do more of. Like for example, like when we've done the contemporary class, or when we've done the hip hop class, or even just like, because like I know we've talked about that I did a jazz dance class for my school this year, and when I've done all those styles, I've noticed that it's like really been such a benefit to my Latin dancing as a whole, because like I understand, like I get a more understanding of how my body moves, and like how like I use my muscles and stuff like that, and just kind of like get better with timing and coordination and stamina and stuff like that we were talking about. So I think that's definitely been a benefit to me for sure. Just in that way, it's just this it makes you, I think, more prepared, and it's just fun, like you were saying, Elena, with the different, like you're like, I love this and I love this and I love these different things. It's the same with me. I can never usually choose one thing that I like. I just am kind of a kind of person that has so many different passions and like interests with things, so I can never really pick. I'm like, oh, I'm only sticking to this thing because that's the only thing I enjoy. Like I enjoy so many different things. So when I see people doing other styles of dance, I always find it interesting to like, it always kind of piques my interest, that I'd be like, oh, I'd love to do this in the future. And there's a second part to this discussion point, and so that's pretty much my answer to that. But I remember the second part of this discussion is, what is our favorite dance style? So that's difficult for me to answer. It really is, just because of how many dances we've done and stuff like that. I think I'm probably going to break it up into two answers. I think I'll probably say for my Latin dancing now, and then for a style that I haven't either done yet, or just like I haven't started it, I guess I could say.
Okay, I have a guess. I'm going to tell you if I got it.
Okay, so you can guess my Latin if you want. Or
samba. I don't know. Wait, hold on a second. I'm going to say cha-cha.
You were right with both for Latin. It's cha-cha, and samba is the tie. Yeah. So yes, you know me very well. So that's, yes, it was so cha-cha and samba are definitely, and I know I mentioned this on when we were recording, like the Dancing with the Stars recaps and stuff like that, that samba is definitely, I think it's the hardest. I don't want to say it's the hardest for me, but there's just so many different like details in samba, as everybody knows, that like it makes it very, very difficult to like, it's because like obviously cha-cha and rumba are like pretty similar, and it's just the speeds are different, and then like obviously paso is different, but I haven't done that yet. And then jive is kind of on a league in its own, but like samba it's just so different than all the rest of the four, or the other four, to where it's like you really have to concentrate when you're doing samba. But because like I said, there's so many details to it, but it's such a fun dance to do because it's so energetic and it's so upbeat and everything. So yeah, cha-cha and samba are hands down my favorites for Latin, even though I love all of them. And I'd probably say it's a tie between for like the ones I even haven't done or haven't learned yet. I'd say hip hop is one that I have done that I'd like to get better at, but I really, really enjoy hip hop. It's just very, very fun and energetic, especially when Elena teaches it, because like her hip hop classes are so much fun, as you know. And then Elena already knows this, just because we were talking about this, that I think it's just a favorite dance I like to watch, and I haven't started learning it yet, but we will soon, is quickstep. I've just always found quickstep really fun to watch. Obviously, it seems very difficult because of how fast it is, and you're in frame the whole time if you're doing standard. But I I'd say those four: cha-cha, samba, hip hop, quick step are probably my top four. I'd say.
Also, guys, I took class the other day, on Wednesday when you guys texted me, and guess what song they played? It wasn't even a hip hop class. We were learning how to strut across the dance floor, and they played Buttons, which is the song that I've been choreographing to.
Yes.
Yeah.
For our hip hop class. And they played it, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, I should just bust out my choreography.
That's why I said you should just bust it out the routine right there.
I saw everyone was I didn't do it, but I should have. He played it, and my jaw dropped. I was like, of course this is the song. God. But anyways, good song.
That always seems to happen with like other classes. Like, hey, we danced to this song. It always seems to all the
Which
time.
is crazy because I was like, I like that's not like the most recent song, and he just like played it for like an across the floor. He's like, let me switch the mood up, and then played it. It's like, this is the mood I was just listening to an hour ago.
Yeah.
It's so funny though. Anyways, that was just a little tangent. Just want to tell you.
Yeah, so I think I know Matthew's giving his answer and all the different styles. So yeah, so I would say like, which would you say are your favorite styles of dance then? And then like, how do you feel like you, and then I'll go after. And how do you think they've helped you in life? Because you've done so many.
My favorite styles would have to be, I hate answering because I can't make a decision for the life of me about anything. Okay. This is hard. I don't know. I like hip hop. I do. That's like actually what I sort of want my career to be in. So I guess that should be one of them. Probably cha-cha. How many you want me to name? Just my top?
Just your top. Yeah. And like how I guess how it's like helped you in life and stuff.
I'm gonna say hip hop, cha-cha, contemporary. I really do love ballet, but I haven't been training it as much. So we'll say contemp. How has it helped me in life? For all my emotions, depending on what I'm feeling. If I hear a good song and I'm like, even if I'm not sad, like I think about this, dancers have to be the most emotional people. I was thinking about this on my ride home. Like, we have to be like so emotional, because if we're not, then we're going to hear music and we're not going to be able to dance to it. So I can hear a contemporary song and I might not be in the mood for it at that moment, but I'd be like, oh, I know when I'm in the mood for this, like I'm going to be able to hit a step. It's going to be good. And then when I hear cha-cha, I'm like, okay, fiery, like, let's go. Like, this is like, I'm about to party. And then hip hop is just when I want to get crazy, like down. So dorky. But like when I hear a good hip hop song, I'm like, yeah, I could put on some sweatpants and a hoodie and go pop in. So those are probably my favorite styles. And it just like, I'm not one to be like, I dance to release my emotions. I'm not that person. I dance because I like music and I like movement and I like to perform, and I enjoy then putting all of that together and making something. And I just enjoy it as a whole. So it's not necessarily that it's more of a emotional release for me. It's that like, I just like going to the studio and like doing it. Like I just like rolling, kicking, leaping, boom, like crazy stuff. So it has shaped me to be crazy and emotional.
I think that's probably for all of us.
Yeah. So I think for me, I think I mean just in general, because like obviously I had done ballet, tap, jazz, all that over the years. Like I think when I was growing up, I always liked the theater classes and stuff because it was like acting, different types of stuff. It was like we weren't necessarily acting and singing, but like the whole thing, the running joke was like when we joined the theater, I joined the theater class, it was like kind of, I was in the age group that was ahead of me, but it was kind of like split. They let like two age groups kind of join that class, was because everybody knew I was like obsessed with Annie when I was a kid. Like there was a whole vacation that I sang the entire soundtrack to Annie the whole time. So they were doing It's a Hard Knock Life from Annie, and I think they told my mom, and my mom's like, she needs to do this, because she's like, I don't know why I was so obsessed with it, but I just was like, I need to be part of this. And we had the bucket and the thing and the whatever. So I always like the performances and stuff, like theater type. Like that's why I love when we did the formation dance, because it's like there's a story and there's like a whole plot and it's a whole thing. So like I love when it's a choreographed thing like that. So that's not necessarily one particular style, but I guess just those types of dances.
Definitely is.
Yeah.
Definitely is, for sure.
Yeah, like that performance. I think when you were talking about like emotionally, like the emotional expression, I think for me, I think skating actually has kind of been more like that, especially since I stopped competing or any of the shows that I've done. That's what I've done And I think for me it always just depends on like what mood I'm in when I do it. Like the song that I did this year was like slower and stuff because like I resonated with the song. So I think I haven't done contemporary as much. I know the next showcase I wanted to do with you is I wanted to do contemporary because I really haven't done it. I think it's just like the slower songs I probably do more for the emotional part. I think for Latin, jive is the one that I like the best, just because I think it's the most like my personality. And it's like very jumpy and everything. I mean, it's not easy, but I don't know. I love jive the best. And some people are like, how do you like jive? And I'm like, I'm totally the opposite. I don't know. I mean, I love a lot of the styles. I think paso and rumba I struggle the most with. Just I don't know, for different reasons. But I think like cha-cha I'm okay, and then like samba it's like technically difficult, but like the style, like the emotion and the style of the dance is good, and I like it. I think Latin in general, it's challenging it's been a challenge for me just because with skating I was always on the ice by myself, so when I do ballroom it's like, and Latin you're with a partner, so it's like especially for Latin like you have to be, I mean maybe not so much in jive, but like you have to be sexy and all this, and I was just like I could, with skating it's like it's not, as I've gotten, especially to the higher levels for Latin, like you have to deliver performances at a higher level. And it's just like in skating, like you might do like a sexy routine, but like you're not going to go overboard because you're mostly competing. You're like a child. So you're not going to, and anybody that does it, it's not going to be, yeah, it's more like flirty, like fun, like it's not as sexy as you might do like for Latin. So I think that's just challenged me just to be more comfortable doing that. I think, standard, I feel like just for me, I just kind of think of it as not like all of the dances are like ballet, but I just think of it more like ballet in some way.
I honestly agree with you 100%.
Yeah. And that's why it's like it's different for me. I think it's just standard is just like holding the frame, and I think it's really just learning how to use your body position to like do that, even without resorting to like when you do smooth that you're using all the arm motions and all that. So I think like quick step I like, obviously it's faster and it's like the most fun, and then whatever, like quick step and foxtrot I think it's just like a little different style. I think from like the beauty of the dance I love Viennese waltz just because it's like a fast waltz, because I'm like waltz is still like a little slow. I was like, David's gonna be listening, I'm like, David, I love all the dances, okay? But I think it's just like generally like watching it, I think Viennese waltz is like more exciting because it's fast, and then we added we changed up the choreography, so I was really happy about that. But like quick step is fun, except when David has his like energy drink and he's like bouncing off the walls, it's a little hyper.
I have to share that video of you. I should give it to you, of dancing to Backyardigans.
Oh yes,
that's right.
That was amazing.
I was like, this song sounds like Backyardigans.
I just love how you randomly played it. You're like, this sounds like it, and then you just.
I heard it within 10 seconds. I'm like, this is the Backyardigans, and then I put the Backyardigans song on, and it was sampled, and I was like, I can't even think of it right now. Oh god, I can't think of the tune. It's like
I forgot about that. And then there was one time that Lucas made me do jive to the Potter Puppet Pals when they were singing Voldemort. It's like Voldemort.
Oh yes,
Voldemort.
I know that. It's so funny.
He made me do a jive. He found it on YouTube and like loop. So we were doing a jive, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so ridiculous. Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. So we'll go on to the next discussion topic. So, okay. And I'll say mine right after I say the question. So basically it's just kind of starting to get ready to close up of what advice would you have for people wanting to get into dancing of any style as a hobby, like maybe what they should look for in a studio. And this is more of just like people maybe coming to it later in life that are looking for dance as a hobby. So I think for myself, I think the biggest thing that also what I enjoyed about Dance With Me once I came was, when I started, it's always just asking like, what are your goals? What do you want to do? There's opportunities to compete and go be really serious about it, but there's a lot of opportunities just to have like social outlet to meet new people. And then the one thing is too that, we're not just, and dance and any style, whether it's ballroom or whatever, it can be expensive depending on where you go. But I think it's just understand like what people might need. Like I knew I had a pretty decent like dance background, so I was like I could start at certain levels, like doing the group classes, things like that. It would be easy for me to follow. But some people might have never danced, and then it's like you're coming in beginner level, and I think it's just communicating that, and then just checking to see that the studio would take any level. Like Dance With Me takes any level. And I think the one advantage that we really have is we know that we are, you know, our instructors and everybody we're working with are very well trained. I mean, it's like, you know, you started as an admin, but you got trained to do all of the other styles. And they're also, I think it's good for me to just see like the company is also like working on developing their own people. But I think it's just, and the people that we bring in are some of like the best of the best in the industry for ballroom. And it's just like, it's crazy how, you know, we think of people like, you know, and Andra and Ferdy and Yulia and all these people, and it's like they're some of the best in ballroom right now. And it's like if you weren't part of this community and you walk down the street, like you wouldn't even know who they were. And it's just like when you start to see, because everybody knows everybody from Dancing with the Stars and they see them on TV, but like there's a whole group of the ballroom community that they're the competitors. They're not like on the TV shows, and it's just like you see how ingrained we are in that. So you are getting quality lessons like from the top people in the industry. So I think that's just I think that was just always important to me. And just try to make sure people are like accredited and all of that. That's the advice I'd have. But Elena, I figured being in your position, what would you suggest?
Whenever I get a call from someone, well, first off, if you're watching this, you need to do your research. Like I cannot tell you what is best for you. I can't. And I was discussing this with someone yesterday. They were like, well, just tell me what to buy. I'm like, I'm not going to tell you what to buy. I'm giving you options and you tell me what you want. I can't make you happy unless you are, like you said, express to me what you think you're interested in. Even if you don't know, you need to have some type of idea. So before you get into a studio, look at 3 studios, narrow it down to a few places that you might be interested in. Call them, ask them, do they take beginners? What are the opportunities if you're looking to do more? Most ballroom studios, they will have social dancing. So that's most of the time what we get is people don't want to perform. They just want to learn for themselves, whether it's fitness, self-fulfillment, artistry, or just for confidence building. Like they don't want to go out and embarrass themselves on the dance floor. That's like the biggest reasons we get people in. But every so often we get people who are like, no, I know I want this to be more. Like, I want to compete, like both of you. Like you were like, okay, no, I want to push this past just social dancing. So we do have it. It's like, we do have clientele coming in that's like that, but it's a little bit of a smaller percentage. And then we will have people come in that just want to do it for self-fulfillment. And then they realize, you know, I'm really enjoying this. Like maybe I can push myself. And so call around, have some type of ideas to like what you want. Like, even if you're not narrowed down, like you try, most studios have an intro lesson. You try out a studio, and if you fall in love right away, awesome. If you don't, try a few places, see, okay, actually this place might be the best for me, see what opportunities they have going forward, and then move from there, because there's social dancing group classes, social dance parties where you can dance with other students inside the studio. You can be a competitor. You could be someone who just performs. You could be just a spectator. You just go because you'd like to watch it. You don't have to participate in it. Well, technically you're still participating just by going and watching, but you don't have to be a performer. There's so much more to it. And it's really hard to like know what you like unless you actually put yourself there and try it. So definitely if you're a new dancer, start with a beginner level. Like if they have a beginner level group class and it states beginner, you should be good. But if it doesn't state beginner, either ask, don't show up to an advanced class.
Yes.
You know, every so often people are like, what class is this? I'm like, well, you came to an advanced class, you know, so making sure what class you're going to, but don't be afraid to ask. Like, as our job, it's my job as a teacher and someone who's been in this career for way longer than any of my students, to be like, based on what I see, this is what I think is best for you. And it might not be 100% bulletproof, but it probably will be a very good idea of where to start. And then you try out a few things and you see what you like, and ultimately you become involved, and then you can make your own decisions. So it's like hard because you know, whether you're watching this or if this is advice for you guys, because it can be for dancers who've already started, is like, if you have an interest, you have to just try it. You have to do something that's not good. Like maybe doesn't feel good, I should say, like something that's scary. Because like, that's the only way you're going to really know if it's like, okay, this is actually something I can work through and then eventually like enjoy doing. Or you try and you're like, that was the worst experience ever, but at least I know I'm never going to do that again. Like, you know, but I can tell everybody like 100% like bulletproof that like you need to be able to try it to fully know for yourself whether or not you're making a good decision. Yeah, that's about it. It's like that's my advice. Try a few different styles, it's just a few different places, a few different classes, and then see what you like the best. And you could like all of it. And then you're like, awesome. I love it all. Now you have lots of options. But you won't know unless you try.
Exactly. Yeah. I agree about everything you guys both said. I think especially just because like I don't like as like I had said, I had always had the ambition to want to start dance. It was never like I didn't I always knew I was very confident that I thought I would enjoy it just based on how much I enjoyed watching it, but I wasn't really sure. And like I had said, there were still some times where I was like, oh, I don't know. Like again, life kind of got in the way and stuff like that and just stuff. But when I finally decided to do it, I was like, because that's when I decided in September of last year, I was like, you know what, like I've wanted to do this for a long time, let me just go for it and see what happens. And it's probably been the best thing I've ever done in my life in terms of just like pure enjoyment and just like feeling accomplished in some way, because there's just so much stuff that you can accomplish through dance, especially with us where we actually compete and stuff like that. And then like you were saying, Elena, I think it's like cool, and I think it's very beneficial if you obviously it's very important to do your research, just because you don't want to just like step into one studio and maybe not like it and you don't have any other options. I think if you like call around the different places and stuff like that, you can kind of get you can like have an idea in your mind. I think like you were saying, it's very important that you have that goal or idea in your mind. Even if you don't know completely, just know, oh, I think this would be fun to do, let me see this, just so they can kind of cater to your needs a little bit better.
I also think that like if let's say God forbid someone came to our studio and deemed it to be hell, they're like, oh, I hate this, like I hate dance, like salsa was the worst, blah 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 blah, or maybe they just didn't vibe with the teacher and they're like, oh my god, I hate dance. They categorize one experience with a whole like a whole universe over here. So just because you don't like one particular dance, one particular instructor, one studio in itself, doesn't mean you're not going to like it somewhere else. Or you could look at multiple places. Like we've all had to take math in school growing up. Like we all have favorite subjects, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it was also our favorite teach,er. So there's
I can agree with that one wholeheartedly.
Yes, I know what you mean.
That analogy.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, I hit home for me.
I mean, I love math.
But yeah, so like it's hard. Like I just think 2023, we're this is the end of the year. This is the last podcast you guys are gonna film before 2023.
Yes.
Be honest. Like seriously, it's for trying new things, even if it's one time. A paint class, a sewing class, a dance class.
Exactly. Dancing. I know. I literally just
we tried the podcast.
Yes, exactly. Podcast, all this stuff. Call the studio.
No, I'm just kidding.
Like I'll put the number at the bottom.
And also this is Dance With Me.
Not a paid sponsorship by Dance With Me, but we are also
very, very complimentary of Dance With Me.
It's very real. Camille, your background is so realistic. Seriously. Like actually, like when you don't move around, like
I know.
Like, look up, it actually looks like you're there. It's a little weird.
I know.
It's actually so weird.
I thought somebody was walking in the door before.
Oh yeah. But it's interesting because just the fact that what am I trying to say? It's basically talking about how and again, all the instructors are different and all studios are different and stuff like that. But I feel like and I feel like Camille, this is probably a thing that really is it makes us happier and want to keep going to our studio because I feel like it's important, and I feel like and again, like I said, obviously it varies per studio and instructor, so it's not going to be like, oh, look, like it's expect this in all the studios that you might try. But I feel like if you notice these things that we've noticed, I feel like that's a good sign that it's a good studio, like, and what to look for in a studio is that, and I think this is also very helpful for us as well, where our instructors, everybody that we learn from at our studio, not only do they want to like teach us how to dance better, it also feels like they are also kind of like they know where we are in our lives, and they are interested in wanting to get to know that. So it's like, hey, and they're very interested in like your goals, like you were saying, Elena. So it's like whenever Elena comes up to me, like if we're doing like a private lesson or something like that, she's like, if we're coming to the end of like the year or like right after a competition, she'll be like, hey, like, what are your goals for this? Or do you want to, like, how about we work on this? Like, she see, like, you guys seem very like intentional with like what the student wants and like what the student's goals are, rather than just be like, oh, this is what you're doing. And like I feel like that makes it a much more welcoming and just chiller and fun environment, that knowing that our instructors have our best interests at heart, not just to kind of be like, oh, like they're my student and they're gonna they're dancing, it's like
on you.
no, exactly, it's like they're gonna make me look good, and not like like I'm not here to benefit the student. I've felt from the very beginning that it's been a very teamwork oriented thing between the student and the instructor, where it's that like, hey, if this is your goal, let's do everything in our power to get to that goal. And I'm going to be with you every step of the way through that. And I think that's been a very beneficial thing to me with our studio in particular. So I think if you sense that the instructor or the studio, wherever you look for, wherever you look at, has your best interest at heart, wherever your journey is, I think that's a very good thing to look for as well, because I know it's helped me a lot.
Yeah. I think one other thing I just wanted to add on that topic, and then I'll go to the next question topic. I think the one thing too, a lot of people, and Elena, I'm sure you can probably vouch for this, probably a good handful of people that call Dance With Me, they are coming because of Max and Val.
Yes.
And also like, and Tony Dovolani was still involved with the studio when I had first started. And I think that's the thing, and it's cool because like obviously it's like the whole novelty of like they've been on Dancing with the Stars, and like when you are at the events you do get to meet them, you know, periodically. They're not at every event, they're not at every thing, but you know, and then they do recognize you over time. Like I haven't had a one-on-one lesson with either Max or Val, but Val borrowed my sunglasses at one of the events and they are in some of the promos for the studio. But like I think he'll always remember that story now. But I think it's just the one thing to keep in mind is like if, and I'm sure that there's other studios that are associated with people from the show and things like that, but it's a small part of the experience. And you know, I think there's just it's great because it's like we'll go to the event and we're so hyped up and we're happy, we love all the instructors and everybody that comes, and then it's like, oh, when they come, it's like this is just like an extra thing that's like on top of it, especially when you've been with the studio a while. I know the first time I met them it's like really cool. But I think it was just it's just like one thing to keep in mind, that if you do go to these studios, you know, and I know like that's why they make sure they have quality staff and a quality experience for everyone, and the events are great, like the parties are amazing and all that. So I think it's just that is one portion of the experience, but it's you know, it's there's so much that's greater than even just the fact that it's affiliated with them. I just want to make sure I say that. So
partying.
Yeah, and partying, we love that part. But yeah, so I think, and then this would be more for Elena, since you've done this the most then obviously out of all of us. What, you know, being that you did choose this career, and kind of bringing it full circle from our whole conversation today, how would, like, what advice would you have for people that are maybe in the position that you were in, like when you were in high school going to college, and like and even like after graduating college, like trying to decide about pursuing dance as a career? Like what advice would you give?
It's so funny, I got this question like 2 weeks ago from someone I grew up dancing with. They messaged me and they were like, can you give me advice? So my advice, it's hard. It's like, it really depends. It really depends per person. If you're passionate about multiple things, there's no problem with pursuing multiple things. So if you're saying like, I really want to be an engineer, that is a crazy career to like go to school for. I could never. Kudos to whoever did. Not for me. I could not imagine studying something like engineering and then also doing dance on top of it. But for someone who's passionate about it and is going to enjoy the schooling for engineering, then they can still dance on top of it. Like that was like the biggest thing is like people say like, you don't have to go to school for dance. You don't have to be a dance major. You can still go to college if you want for a degree in a different career, and then making sure you're still training. Like when you're not in class, go take classes in the city if you're, wherever you're located, or go keep training, or go audition and put yourself out there. Like it's not required. They're not going to look at my resume and be like, she's a dance major, I want her. They're going to look at that and say, okay, she has knowledge. She took professional level classes and she has the knowledge. Then they're going to look at me and say, is she utilizing what she learned? And then you get hired. So you can have that knowledge without having to go to college if you feel like that's best for you. If you love dance and hate schooling, do not go to college for dance. Like I would not suggest that, because you're going to hate the school. If you really hate school, like people who genuinely hate going to like school, don't go to school for dance. It could work out. I know, it could work out, but you're mixing two things that, don't need to be mixed. Like keep your passion over here and keep your hatred far away so it doesn't taint it. I mean, and if you feel like, you saw, for me, I had so much more to grow. Like I was so just like, I never even thought about having a professional career. So going to college for dance for me was great because it introduced me to how to move my body in a more professional way and how to work with professional choreographers, instructors. So for me, I sort of needed it because I needed I was here and my goal was here, but I had no bridge, and college laid that down for me. So now I have a way better understanding, but it's not required. So
and you liked school enough that it wasn't like,
and I liked school. I did like school.
You just didn't want to do the blood and guts thing.
I just did not want to do the blood and the guts. I was like, do I want to be an athletic trainer? And then I was like, if I ever see a broken bone, I might pass out. So I think I'm gonna skip on that career. I was very close to choosing it, but it's really tough. I mean, you just have to lay out your options, see what you like the best. And then if you can make any of it work. You just have to decide what's the most important. How do you balance it? How do you balance what's important to you? I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
That's great advice.
For sure. Exactly.
And I think I would be, if we didn't ask you this question before we ended the podcast, it would be a problem.
Is it?
How long? No, that's next. The other one. How long have you watched Dancing with the Stars? And have you watched any of the Bachelor? How long have you watched Dancing with the Stars? And have you watched any of the Bachelor shows? Or how much have you watched Dancing with the Stars?
Wrapping it up into the drama. Okay. Dancing with the Stars. And I'm sorry to the bosses if they see this. I've never seen a full season of Dancing with the Stars. And that doesn't mean I don't like it. I like Dancing with the Stars, and I like watching the dances. And I like watching, it's just cool to see the growth of people who have never danced, and then they're learning to dance within a week. So I enjoy the aspect, like the fun of it, and the challenge, because I couldn't even imagine having to go through that stress. But I've actually never seen a full season. So it's like, oh God, it's like a hard question to answer. I've seen episodes and I've seen clips. Bachelor, never in my life have even. I don't think I've ever I've never seen 5 minutes of Bachelor. I've seen clips of when Hannah moves the stool. Is her name?
That was iconic. I mean, that was an iconic moment.
Yeah, I've seen that. It's going viral and
listening to us, basically.
Listening to us, yeah.
That's about it. I think literally that's it. I can't even name another clip that I've seen from The Bachelor.
I mean, in your defense about Dancing with the Stars, you're probably working most of the time when it's on airing. So even once you started at the studio, it's not even like you could watch it because you're working when it's on.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Way back when I started, we used to actually have a premiere party at the studio.
Oh, cute.
We would do that. I mean, I don't know. Now we've got so many classes and things. Oh, think about it. We got time.
We got a little time.
Right. Exactly. We'll see what happens.
Figure it out if it fits in the thing. Okay, and then we have the fun story time. So I think the funny thing that happens, and unfortunately, so because
is it funny?
It's funny.
Well, it was okay.
Funny
It
in the
was-
moment, I guess.
We were so when we were at the dance competition, and I'll go back to July. So, actually maybe go back and further. So Elena and I always like talking about watching all the social media for Dancing with the Stars, like especially after at the beginning of 2020, we had gone to see the Dancing with the Stars tour. And I know that so Alan and Brandon were like posting all this hilarious content on Instagram. So I know Elena and I would always talk about it and whatever. And just saying love Alan and I love Brandon too. Like all of just the posts that they did were during that time were really funny. So in July, we had the first local AODC, the American Open Dance Sport Championship competition. And as we've described in the podcast, it is open to more studios than just Dance With Me. So I know we were talking, and I think we were looking, and we thought that Alan was in the city, and then you thought that his studio was coming. So we were talking about it, and some of the managers, that's how it started. And then the managers started making fun of you because they heard you saying, they're like, oh, you love Alan, and
yeah, they totally made this whole scenario up because I was talking about him, and they're like, why do you want to know if he's coming? I'm like, I don't. I was like, well, because I do, but I don't. I was like,
also blame me, and you never blamed me.
Yeah, I was like, because in the moment I'm like, what's happening? And they're like, you want to know if he's coming, don't you? I'm like,
no,
where is this going? I was like,
I did. I want to know.
Yeah.
And
so
then
I forgot about this. Yeah.
So this is what happened. So then in November, when we were at the competition again, and then that's when they started nagging you. So we were at the bar after the party, and you came over to us, and then you were like, Alex just told me that he's gonna call Alan. We were freaked out, and we're like, oh my gosh. And then you said it, and then you came back, and then you're like, I just spoke to him on FaceTime. And it was late. It was a long day, and they totally did not set you up for success.
No,
so I'm just saying,
they basically were like this. I'm going to show you their example. And they flipped the phone, and I was like, hi. I was like, hello. He's like, talk. I was like a dog. They were like, talk to him. I'm like, that was exactly my reaction. I was like, oh, hey. And then it went downhill. Totally went downhill. I was like, yeah, I could have asked for a dance career. I could have asked for a flight to Cali to literally see the show. And I was like, I have nothing to say in this moment. Thank you so much for taking my call.
But we're going to ask him to please come to the next AODC competition.
Yes, because we're going to meet him next one. So
we're gonna meet him. Yes, we are going to the tour, and we're going to meet him. So we got to figure out what we're going to say.
Yeah. You have to
it's like, hey, it wasn't her. It was they set her up for. They
set me up for failure.
For failure, exactly, like you said.
I swear, and it's and once you see her TikToks with the hot sauce, it's gonna be just.
Then you'll exactly.
I don't have a TikTok, guys. No one look up my TikTok. Or if you're gonna follow me, you can look me up. But I don't have a TikTok, so don't look me up.
It's
no.
If you follow, you won't have anyone to follow. So.
Okay.
You can only stalk me if you're gonna follow me. We'll put it that way.
Yes, that's good. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for joining us today. It was a lovely conversation, and I know we talked a lot longer than we thought we were going to, but we're happy to have you and get all of these questions answered for ourselves and for everybody else watching.
Mm-hmm.
Honored to be here. Thanks for asking. I know we discussed some of these things in the studio, but it's good for everybody else to hear them as well. So exactly. I'm happy that I was here to provide all of your the answers to your questions. There we go. Yeah.
Especially since you've been such a long time fan of the podcast. So it's really
fan.
Yes.
From the beginning.
Watching it, listening at 1 a.m. while you're driving home.
I'll drive home. I'm like, hey, they're talking about me.
Yeah.
And you realize you better be listening every week. Then we just started giving our own feedback, and she's like, they don't say those in person.
I basically was at one point you guys were like, all right, well, you have no choice. If you want to hear the feedback, you got to listen to the podcast.
Yeah.
But no, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you again for being on. It was awesome.
Okay, and Matthew's going to close us out.
Yes. Okay. So thank you very much for listening to today's episode. Please remember to like this video, subscribe to us on YouTube, hit the post notification bell so you can get notified when we post another episode or any other content. If you enjoyed it, please share it with a friend. And if you could please follow us on Instagram at the Ballrooms and Bachelors Instagram, at Ballrooms and Bachelors, and our personal Instagrams, which are linked in the Instagram bio of that account and at the end screen of this episode. So thank you guys so much for watching. And there'll probably be another bonus episode sometime soon. And we'll talk to you guys then. All right. See ya.
See you.
Bye.